evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is our July edition of the Building Bridges to the Community Lecture Series, and we have a fantastic group of registered dietitians joining us this evening to teach us all about nutrition myths, some diet trends, specifically as it relates to cardiovascular health. I'm Rachel Narwald. For any of you who don't know me, I'm the nurse practitioner with Preventive Cardiology, and I will just briefly introduce our experts this evening. We have Sharon Zarabi, who is the program director of the Western region at the Katz Institute for Women's Health. We have Sarah Miller, who is at the Northwell Health Lipid Center. And we also have Leah Pasquarella, who is the chief and manager of nutrition and dietetics at the South Shore University Hospital. And of course, we have Dr. Janos with us. But very excitingly, we're going to have a cooking demo, and we have our fantastic executive chef, Brian, joining us this evening. He is a graduate of the Culinary Institute of America, and he's been the executive chef at the South Shore Hospital since 2018. So we're so thrilled to have him with us this evening. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Please know that at any time you can put your questions in the Q&A portion, and I will be keeping track of those to ask at the end. But feel free to pop in the questions anytime you think of them. I don't want you to forget them. And we're going to have a really great interactive Q&A section at the end. And the recipes are going to be very amazing. I know everybody's going to want to cook them themselves. So don't you worry. We're going to make sure that we get the recipes emailed out to everybody that's registered. And if you would like them, you can always reach out to me and email me at the end. We'll make sure that we make all of that very clear for you guys so nobody misses out on these fantastic recipes. So without further ado, Dr. Janos, would you like to say anything before we get started?
Sure. Thank you, Rachel. And I'm so excited to have all of our guests here tonight. These are people who really we work with on a regular basis. We're sending our patients on a regular basis to dietitians. We are doing more and more teaching kitchens so that everyone can really learn how to apply this themselves in their own lives, how to make these tasty, healthy meals. And we're partnering with the Katz Institute for Women's Health, where Sharon has been guiding us in how to get a lot more of this to women who are in need. So I think the one message I think for tonight is really get good information. You really want to have accurate information when it comes to diet, and I'm glad that Sharon's going to be walking us through the myths and the realities of what diet is about. Partner with someone, work with a dietitian, get in a group, do it with a friend. You shouldn't be doing this on your own, and work with your doctor and really make it fun. I've learned over the years how, eating healthy can actually taste good. This was a shock to me initially. I thought it would be stuff that tastes good and is not good for you, and then stuff that's healthy, but this is not the case. So really make it good and see how good you feel when you eat healthy. That's another really important message. So we're going to let the ladies run this show and guide us through what we should be thinking about. So Sharon, you can go ahead and start us off. Thanks, everyone.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in and for that gracious introduction. Going to share my screen, so just let me know if you guys can see it. Thumbs up if you see it. All right, great. So diets are hard to follow and easy to hate. And I know that all of us are holding the credentials as dietitians, but I like to call, I'll speak for Leah and Sarah when I say I like to call ourselves doctors of food, because we do believe that food is medicine. And, going through the different types of diet trends can get very confusing. So we are here to demystify anything that you've heard about food and trying to make what to eat easy. So I'm going to go through a few diets that you guys have heard and the pros and cons of each. And then Sarah will go through, again, how healthy fats can fit into a diet. And Leah is going to do a wonderful cooking demo. We'll have some recipes at the end. Okay, so as I advance my slides. All right, so here we have, I'm sure many of us have heard, the ketogenic diet. And the ketogenic diet is basically the new Atkins diet. Most of us have heard a very, very low carbohydrate diet. And when following this type of diet, again, when I say diet, it's something we start, it's something we end, it's not really lifelong. we are basically eliminating carbohydrates from our daily intake. So instead of using carbohydrates, which is the first form of fuel that our body is using for energy, we are trying to use stored fat. So for anyone who's gone on a ketogenic diet or a very, very low carbohydrate diet, it's almost as little as eating just an apple a day. You'll notice that you are losing a lot of weight in the beginning. And a lot of that is water weight, because when we eliminate carbohydrates from our diet, um, carbohydrates get stored as glycogen. Glycogen gets stored with water. So when we eliminate carbs, we lose a lot of weight, but a lot of that could be water weight. And then with time, if we do stick to this, we start to tap into our fat zone. So the pros and cons of this, obviously, you're going to lose a lot of weight, but you might be very hangry because, as you know, a lot of us get full from eating mostly fibrous foods, vegetables, and protein sources. And on a ketogenic diet, we're really taking in a lot more fat, moderate amounts of protein, and very, very low carbs. Some people might have some symptoms of constipation, again, because you're not getting enough fiber from your diet. Again, fiber is found in carbohydrates. And you might even have a little bit of fatigue. And sometimes people even call it the keto flu, where they just don't feel well. And that's, again, from very, very low energy. The next diet we were going to talk about is the Paleo Diet. So this is also known as the caveman diet. It goes back to thousands and thousands of years ago when we were roaming the land and really just eating foods that came from nature. So this is a whole foods approach to eating. You're including lots of wild green vegetables, tart fruits, nuts, wild meats, and good sources of saturated and unsaturated fats. As you can see, because this is what we were eating when we were roaming the land, we did not have factories or the Industrial Revolution. So there weren't much packaged foods or processed foods. So one of the benefits of following a sort of paleo or caveman diet is that you're eliminating processed foods, such as foods that are high in sugar, sugary beverages, sweet fruits, grains that, again, do not come naturally from the earth and are highly processed, and extracted seed oils and dairy products. The next diet is a vegan diet. So there are a lot of documentaries now promoting this form of way of eating. When you are following veganism, you are eliminating all animal products. And this actually includes honey, because honey is manufactured from bees. So on a vegan diet, again, it's all plants, again, anything that comes from nature or the earth. It is different than a vegetarian diet because people who follow vegetarianism still may consume fish, eggs, and dairy. We call them lacto-ovo vegetarians or pescatarians. And when we eliminate a lot of animal products, we're also limiting our sources of B12, omega-3 essential fatty acids, zinc, calcium, and vitamin D. So it's really important, as Dr. Gianos mentioned, to work with a dietitian when you are following any specific diet, so we can really go through what may be missing in the micronutrients of your day-to-day intake, and maybe supplement with vitamins and minerals. And one of the benefits of following a vegetarian or vegan diet is that it's mostly plants. It's ethically, we're promoting the health of the environment, also pro-animal treatment. But there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. So many people, if they're following this form of diet, really need to stick to the plant-based foods rather than now replacing all of those protein and animal sources with packaged foods like potato chips and pastas and bread, because that can really increase your glucose and your triglycerides. And again, with all of these metabolic issues happening, can also lead to heart disease. So again, with all of these meal plans, there's a right and wrong way to follow. And that's what dietitians are here to help you with. The next buzzword that most of you have probably heard is intermittent fasting. There's many different ways to do this. It's not so much a diet where we're focusing on the types of foods, but it's a style of eating, where you are basically limiting certain windows of time where your body is just letting your recovering from everything that we are digesting throughout the day. And the benefits of giving your body some time off is that you're improving the utilization of fat as fuel. So, similar to what you're doing on a ketogenic diet, and also decreasing insulin. And insulin is a fat storing hormone. So, by giving your body some time to kind of rest and recover, there's so many of these cellular repairments happening. And as you can see on the slide, there's different ways to do this. Some people can do it where they're only eating, 5 days a week of a normal diet and then fasting, basically consuming only 500 to 600 calories 2 days out of the week. Or they may be doing no food at all for 24 hours, and that could be 1 to 3 times a week, or time restricted. And I think this is probably the safest and the best. I say that we really need to follow our circadian rhythm, and we are supposed to be getting naturally 7 to 8 hours of sleep where we are not consuming any food. So naturally, we should be fasting from supper to break fast. So I don't like to call this a diet, but it's something that we should start to incorporate as part of our lifestyle. So this is again a form of time restricted eating. And lastly, probably the safest and one that I'm a huge proponent of, and I know I speak for most of the dietitians here, and when Lisa goes through some of the recipes, this is very similar to, the safest and the best heart healthy Mediterranean diet. Mediterranean diet is basically a way of eating that's not so much of a formal diet, but it's featuring foods that are eaten in the Mediterranean region, including Spain, southern Italy, France, all of these countries that border the Mediterranean Sea. And it really emphasizes fresh fish, fruits, vegetables, high fiber, whole grains, omega-3 essential fatty acids, lots of fish. They're really limiting meat and cheese and sugar. Obviously, you're not going to see a lot of processed foods on this type of diet. They're encouraging the monounsaturated fats. They're encouraging fiber. They're encouraging omega-3 essential fatty acids that are really important for our brain health and really helping lower our risk of heart disease and boosting our energy. So with that, I am going to hand off the mic to Sarah so she can teach us a little bit more about the fats that we were just discussing.
Thank you so much, Sharon. That was great. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of really good questions about all these diets. Okay, can you advance the slides? So I want to talk about some cardiovascular nutrition myths. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of nutrition information and a lot of misinformation on the radio, in magazines, on TV, and it's coming at us. And this food is great for you. This is a superfood. And what do you listen to? It's really confusing. So hopefully I'm going to distill it for you and kind of focus in on a couple of foods that there's some confusion about. And before I get to specific foods, I want to talk about fat, because a lot of times people just associate fat with cardiovascular health and everything else with diabetes or liver disease. So let's talk about fat. Can you advance the slide, Sharon? So dietary fat, which is the fat we get through the foods we eat, can absolutely contribute to cardiovascular health. And we're talking a lot about saturated and trans fats today because those foods will affect your cardiovascular health. But when you're talking about triglycerides, which is the main form of fat that's carried in the bloodstream, those are affected by fat, but also affected by sugar and processed carbohydrates and alcohol and things that we normally associate with diabetes. So to obtain and maintain cardiovascular health, you really do need to think about the whole picture, which is fats plus processed carbs, added sugars, all the other things, right? We're not just focused on fats when we're talking about cardiovascular health. Okay. Now I want to do something kind of fun. I want to do a short poll. I want to see what you guys think about these particular foods that we're going to be discussing. Do you think that these foods are heart healthy or not? So John, can we start the quiz? We're going to be talking yes or no about a couple of different things. Coconut oil is the first one. So do you think, is it part of a heart healthy diet? Yes or no? Real quick. And we can go through them, John. Okay. All right. So, I love that there's confusion here, right? Yes or no, 45 to 55%. It's very confusing for a lot of people for good reason. All right, we can advance the slides. So, basically, where's the slide? Okay, so coconut oil. Coconut oil falls under the category of a tropical oil, same as palm oil, cocoa butter. And these oils contain a lot of saturated fat. And you're going to hear saturated fat come up a lot from me and from Leah and Brian. Saturated fat, diets that are high in saturated fat, are usually associated with increased LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, one of the things we're targeting with cardiovascular health. Coconut oil actually contains more saturated fat than butter, about 12 grams per tablespoon. And 12 grams is typically the amount that a person would eat over the course of an entire day. And if we're getting it in just 1 tablespoon, it indicates that it's probably a food that you should eat limited amounts. We don't say none of, there's no food that's completely off limits, but coconut oil is something that you really should eat, in great moderation. Okay. All right. Next poll question. We're going to be talking about fish oil. There's a lot of confusion about fish oil. Yes or no? Heart healthy diet. What do we think? Oh my goodness, yes. Okay, great. 100%. So the answer is probably yes. All right, Sharon, can you advance it? So when we're talking about cholesterol and LDL, remember that bad cholesterol, the scholarship doesn't really associate fish oil with lowering cholesterol levels, which is really interesting because it's one of the first things we think about with cardiovascular health. Now, fish oil is really helpful if you have high triglycerides, right? Because the omega-3 fatty acids that Sharon had mentioned can reduce your triglyceride levels. So if you do have elevated triglycerides, or if you have some sort of inflammatory disease, because omega-3s help with inflammation, then fish oil is okay. But if you have elevated cholesterol or elevated LDL and your triglycerides are fine, don't spend the money on fish oil. It's not going to help. Okay. But a note about fish oil, all supplements aren't really regulated by the FDA. So if you are buying something at CVS or Rite Aid, make sure it's coming from a reputable source. Otherwise, you might be eating olive oil or canola oil in a capsule. You don't really know. Okay. Also note that fish oil in supplement form isn't actually metabolized as easily as it is from foods that you eat. So if you're interested in lowering your triglycerides or keeping a low inflammatory diet or just increasing your Mediterranean lifestyle, eating 2 servings of fatty fish per week is actually a really good way to do this. Okay. If you do take the supplements, note that some people, if they're taking more than 3 grams a day, might have some GI issues like upset stomach. Okay. Next poll question. Coffee. Yes? No? What do we think? Is it another 100%? Oh, okay. It's pretty split. Most people saying yes. So there's good reason for that. Sharon, can you advance? So coffee in general is pretty rich in polyphenols and potassium, which is good. There have been no links found between hypertension or risk of afibrillation, and regular coffee drinkers. And I want to underscore regular coffee drinkers because if you're somebody who's never drank coffee before and now tomorrow is going to drink 5 cups of espresso, you might notice some heart palpitations. You might notice some side effects. But if you're somebody who drinks coffee regularly, there's no reason why you'd have to stop. Okay. In fact, habitual coffee consumption is linked to lower risk of all-cause mortality, which is really good and can improve glucose metabolism. But if you're somebody who adds a lot of sugar and cream to your coffee, the sugar and the cream can be problematic. So right now I'm talking about just black coffee, not the really rich, creamy latte stuff. Quick note, unfiltered coffee contains a chemical compound called dipertines, which have been linked to increased LDL. And when I say unfiltered coffee, I mean sometimes like French press or Turkish coffee, Greek coffee, things that are just ground coffee beans with water, as opposed to like drip coffee through a filter. So go slow with that. And of course, excess caffeine can be disruptive to restful sleep, which is really important for heart health. Okay, next, eggs. I get asked this question all the time. What do you guys think? Yes? No? The scholarship here goes back and forth. So guessing people are going to be, I don't know. Oh, most people think yes. Okay, good. So for most people, the answer is yes. Totally part of a healthy diet. Okay. Eggs do contain cholesterol, dietary cholesterol. Cholesterol you get from the foods we eat can affect your blood cholesterol, but only a little bit. So for the vast majority of people who do not have familial hypercholesterolemia, which is a genetic condition where you have elevated cholesterol, or people who don't have heart disease, pre-existing heart disease, eggs are fine because they're low in saturated fat. Coming back to saturated fat again. And they have other nutritional benefits. The yolk has all the essential fatty acids, for example. Okay. But if you're somebody who does have elevated cholesterol, then we're going to be cautious. And I'd recommend limiting your egg intake, your yolk intake. The whites are fine. Limiting your yolk intake to maybe 3 to 4 a week, spread out throughout the week, maybe every other day, 1 egg yolk. Okay. Just to be cautious, because we do want to limit the dietary cholesterol a little bit if you have pre-existing elevated cholesterol. Okay. Next slide. Dairy, heart healthy diet. I was just asked this today, actually. What do we think? Oh, pretty split. Very interesting. Okay. So the answer is maybe yes, maybe no. Depends what type of dairy you're eating. So dairy in general is a really good source of protein, calcium, phosphorus, potassium, vitamin D. If it's fortified, it usually is fortified in America these days. So it's great. However, full fat dairy like cheese and cream contain a lot of saturated fat. That's our enemy here. And possibly containing a lot of sodium if it's cheese. So those items, the full fat dairy, can raise cardiovascular risk. Okay. But low fat dairy, like low fat yogurt, low fat milk, those contain the benefits that I just mentioned without the saturated fat. So those can be included in a heart healthy diet. And some dairy products like Fir and yogurt are fermented, which have extra anti-inflammatory properties, which is really great. However, if you are allergic to dairy or lactose intolerant, please don't start eating dairy, because I just said that. If you shouldn't eat dairy because of an allergy, please don't start. There are really good dairy alternatives like almond milk and oat milk and soy milk. There's a million out there. The only one I would not recommend is coconut milk, because remember, coconut has a lot of saturated fat. But otherwise, go for the dairy-free milk, go for low-fat dairy. Both are perfectly fine. Okay? We advance the slides. Okay. The last thing I want to mention is that when people think about a heart healthy diet, they think that we're just talking about restriction, things that you shouldn't eat, right? Don't eat saturated fat, don't eat cheese, don't eat butter, take all these things out of your diet. A really helpful way to think about cardiovascular health in terms of nutrition is what I can add into my diet. How do I make this a more positive experience? And there's 2 things that I want to mention, and I know Leah and Brian are going to talk about soluble fiber in a bit, but increasing your soluble fiber can reduce your blood cholesterol levels and lower your blood pressure. So if you eat 10 grams of soluble fiber a day, then you can reduce your cholesterol levels, which is really cool, because here we're just talking about something to add in, not to restrict. And if you have 2 grams of sterols or stanols per day, you can also reduce your LDL. So sometimes it's really helpful to talk about positive, right? So increase your fruits and vegetables, increase your whole grain consumption, and that alone could lower your blood pressure, help you with weight loss, and help with heart health. Now, I've mentioned them a couple times already. Now we're going to hear from Leah and Chef Brian, and they're going to show us some really cool recipes, teach us how to cook them. We're going to have chocolate chia overnight oats and salmon stuffed avocado and chocolate hummus, and it's going to be really great and entertaining. And I'm excited to hear your questions at the end. Thank you so much.
Hi, thanks, Sharon and Sarah, for that amazing information. So we're going to follow up with showing you how to create really healthy, easy to prepare recipes that contain all these wonderful nutrients that we were just talking about that are excellent for your health. The recipes we chose for this evening all align with being higher in soluble fiber, omega-3 fatty acids, high in antioxidants. So these are really simple, quick recipes that we're going to show you. We're going to start first with the chocolate overnight oats. So the overnight oat is going to feature the chia seed, and the chia seed is really interesting. It's newer, it's getting a lot of buzz. It's kind of a popular superfood. You're seeing this now in chia pudding and overnight oats in stores selling it as well. Chia's been around for quite some time. I only remember it as from the Chia Pet when I was a kid, buying Chia Pet, and that's what we did with chia in America. But now we're actually using it in a very helpful manner. So Brian's going to show us how to prepare an overnight oats, where it's going to feature soluble fiber-rich oats, as well as raspberries and strawberries. And as he goes along, I'm just going to give you a little bit of factoids and tidbits about the ingredients we're utilizing.
Hi, everyone. So we're gonna start with some regular oats that you buy at your regular store, quick oats. Okay, we're gonna put those in a bowl, and we're gonna soak them in hot coffee, kind of like when you make oatmeal at home, when you put hot water or hot milk into it. So we're gonna use our hot coffee to kind of get a little moisture to them, get them all mixed in. Okay, let that sit for a little bit. While that's sitting in, you're also gonna take some of your cocoa powder and mix that in well. Make sure to get nice and coated all over the oats. That's where that good chocolate cocoa powder is gonna come from. A nice chocolatey flavor. Incorporate that well. Okay. Once that's all mixed in, you're going to add your chia seeds. Okay. And then you want to add your sweetness to it, which comes in a little form of honey.
Chia is great because you don't need to grind it like you do with flax seeds, and it's a really good source of omega-3 fatty acids as well. It actually has more omega-3s than salmon does, but it has a different type of omega-3. It has the AHA. The recommendations are more for EPA and the DHA parts of the omega-3 fatty acids. But it's still a good plant alternative if you're vegan and you can't you're not someone that likes salmon.
Finally, our last ingredient, we're going to add almond milk to it. If you don't like almond milk, you can use cashew milk, you can use water, whatever your liking is, mix it to flavor, make it your own. Get it all incorporated. So you let it sit, and you can let it sit either overnight or a minimum of 3 hours. I would suggest doing it overnight so it gets all that flavor and everything to kind of develop and get the whole full effect of it. But once you have everything all soaked over and leave it overnight, through the magic of television, we have one that we did yesterday, and it's all ready for you. So it comes out very nice. We have like a nice little bowl here. Okay, we're going to throw some raspberries on top for a nice little fruit garnish. Great in the summertime now. And we're going to do a nice little strawberry here too, as well. There you are, overnight oats.
Overnight oats.
Yeah.
Featuring 13 grams of fiber alone. So the chia seed, just 1 ounce of chia is going to give you about 11 grams of fiber. It's recommended to take about 25 to 35 grams a day. So you're almost getting half of your recommendations by including chia seed into your diet. I love chia seed because it actually is very versatile. It can absorb, since the fiber here, the carbs are mostly fiber, it absorbs up to 10 to 12 times its weight in water. So you can add it to, like we did with the milk, you can add it to any other kind of liquid, you can add it to a smoothie, you can put it in a drink, you can add it to oatmeal or yogurt. You can also add it in baking, so many things you can do with it. What I liked about it too is you can, since you don't have to grind it, you can eat it raw, you can sprinkle, it has a little bit of a crunch to it. It can also be used as an egg substitute since it has a thickening capability. The oats in here are great as a soluble fiber for the overnight oats. If you want to go with, if you like an overnight oat that's really soft and mushy, you want to go with more of a quick cooking oat. If you want to go with an overnight, you want it to be a little more hearty and not have a little bit of bite to it still, you might want to choose like a steel cut oat. So depending on what you're looking for in that. The soluble fiber is really going to help to fill you up, make you feel full. It naturally helps to lower cholesterol, and it's as you're featuring these types of ingredients in your recipes, you're naturally going to help to lower inflammation, regulate your blood sugar levels, increase your triglycerides, doing this all through your food. And then the berries on top of that here, nutrient rich, the brighter the better, full of antioxidants, which we know have a whole host of benefits for our heart health. So we're going to move on to the next recipe. And if you have any questions about any of the ingredients or how to prepare it or how to substitute anything in it, you can put that in the chat. So the next one we're featuring here is salmon stuffed avocados. And again, as we were looking through recipes to prepare for this session, we wanted to go with something that we knew was going to be loaded with healthy properties. Salmon, as Sarah was mentioning, rich in omega-3s, recommended to have at least 2 servings a week of that. It also is rich in your B vitamins, which we know helps with our energy level, and also helps to reduce inflammation, but also that orange pigmentation that is in the salmon That's astaxanthin. It helps to, also work with the omega-3s, and it's an antioxidant that's been shown in studies to help increase your HDLs and lower your LDLs. So we're going to prepare this next one pretty quick because, again, there's a lot of these items or stuff that you may have already in your pantry. Who doesn't keep avocados in their kitchen nowadays? And most people do. So he's going to start preparing this one next.
So we're going to start off. We're going to take our non-fat yogurt.
This is a Greek yogurt in this recipe, high in fiber. We know that yogurts are good for probiotic health.
Yeah, our celery, our red onion, little chopped parsley, fresh lime juice, low-fat mayonnaise, and some Dijon mustard.
A little bit goes a long way. Yes, mustard contains salt, but we didn't season in this recipe. There's no added salt. We're using fresh salmon, not canned. You can substitute with canned salmon and drain it really well. I would just maybe eliminate or reduce that mustard down if you're doing that because of the sodium content.
I like the Dijon mustard myself because it has the white wine into it, so it gives it a little bit more flavor than your regular deli mustard, but if that's what you want to use too, that's just fine. Okay, get that well incorporated. Okay, now we have salmon that we cooked already, just roasted in the oven, a little bit of water in the bottom of the pan, get it fully cooked so it's nice and light and flaky. So we're going to kind of flake it up a little bit. We're going to add that to our mixture. I'm just using a fork to mash it up. You could use, if you had gloves on, you want to use a spoon or chopsticks, whatever, whatever works for you is fine. Get crazy with it.
Now salmon is one of the oilier fish, and you can remove the skin. Really can be very versatile as well in recipes. You can make so many different things with salmon.
Salmon in here, smelling good already. You cook the salmon the day before and then make a salad the day of, or you can do it that day as well. Either way it works out. The salmon's still a little warm from the oven, so it's nice. I'm getting a nice aroma of all the lime juice and the salmon. You could also substitute in cilantro instead of parsley. You want to go like a more, Latino flair to it, which would be nice. Okay. So now once we have that ready, we move on to the best part of the show, is the avocados. Okay. You want avocados that are semi-soft. You can push your finger in, you can kind of feel it's a little soft inside, not really that hard. But those would be the riper ones, and the sweeter ones would be a little better. Okay. You're gonna ride your knife right down the middle. Okay, so you get it. Do a little twist out of the way. Then your avocado's exposed in the middle, and you just kind of put your knife in, and sticks to the pit, pops right out. Okay. So we're gonna do this to both of them.
Check out the avocado is, a fruit. Everyone always debates is it vegetables or fruit, also called alligator pear. Avocado is another one that's really versatile. You can use it for so many different things. This recipe is just it's going to hold the actual salad. Avocado being, a couple years ago had a bad rap because it is very high in fat. It's one of the highest fat containing plant foods. But the good part is it contains the monounsaturated fats, the same oleic acid that's in olive oil. Everybody knows that they include olive oil in your pantry if you're, especially for heart health. We know that this helps to reduce inflammation. The avocado contains over 20 different nutrients. It's so nutrient rich. It has more potassium than a banana. And it has a really good source of soluble fiber. Again, that soluble fiber helps to lower cholesterol, helps digestive health. And studies show that avocados can really significantly lower your total cholesterol, triglycerides, off your LDLs, and lower your HDLs. So the HDLs are the better ones.
So we took some of the pulp out from the avocado. We left about half of it in, and we're mashing it up now with our fork, just to get it so you can incorporate it into the rest of the mixture here. So you have avocado inside and outside, all over the place. Never a bad thing. Okay. Once your avocado's all mashed up, you're gonna put that right inside the mix here. Read it.
Yes, I'm eating this one. Just one area now.
All right. So we're going to mix it in, incorporate all the ingredients so you get all the flavors in one bite, which is always the best way to eat your food. You're going to have the cilantro, I'm sorry, parsley. You're gonna have the lime juice, the avocado, the salmon. Okay, so we're all mixed. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna plate one up for you so it looks nice. Okay, so you have one of your avocados already scooped out. So we're gonna put this mixture right up in here. Like a nice little brunch idea too. Okay, all that looking really nice, sitting right up on, yeah, beautiful. Okay, save a little herbs to put on top. You can put chives, you can put a little parsley on top, which we did. A little more cilantro in there. Yep. But there we go.
Here's your salmon. You can easily get your one salmon serving of this. You can go back for seconds, but you want to try to pace yourself with this one. So the last one we're going to be doing is dark chocolate hummus. And dark chocolate hummus we're making from scratch. Hummus is one of those things people often buy store prepared, and they're a great, wonderful addition to use as a dip at home. Features a chickpea, tahini, pretty simple to make. But most of the time, you can get bored with hummus because you're used to it and you eat it regularly. So we wanted to do a recipe that's a little fun, a little different, and it features cocoa powder. We know cocoa powder has a lot of heart health benefits. And with this recipe, because we're not heating it up or baking the cocoa powder at all, it retains more of its antioxidant properties than it does like when you process it or heat it up. It's really rich in those polyphenols that we mentioned earlier and the flavonols. So that cocoa powder to get into your diet is really important for our heart health. And they say an ounce a day keeps the doctor away. Just getting 1 ounce of dark chocolate into your diet was shown to help decrease risk of heart failure, stroke, and heart disease. It's another superfood. The Mayans used to cultivate cocoa and drank it in a hot chocolate type form, and they were healthier than their non-cocoa eating counterparts. It's funny, the Mayans kind of had some wisdom because this is where the chia seed came from as well, from the Aztec Mayans. They had a lot of knowledge when it comes to food as medicine, even back then. So we're going to be preparing this one here with your chickpeas, but an easy way to make this instead of tahini.
Yep. So pretty much the easiest way to do this whole entire recipe is just put everything in the bowl and you kind of pulse it to get to that smooth consistency. If you find out that maybe the chickpeas you put too much in or you didn't have enough or whatever it was, you could always add a little more water or a little more chickpea to get the consistency where you want it. But for the most part, it's going to be right on with everything. So we added our chickpeas in. Okay. We're going to add our vanilla. We have our almond extract, and our maple syrup, and one of the main ingredients is our cocoa powder. And we're going to put a pinch of salt. Salt is always good when you're doing something with chocolate. It makes it come out a little more, gives it a little more unctuousness to it, so you can always taste it. Seems weird with salt, but it's one of the things that people always do. Kind of enhances the flavor of it. Okay. And I'm going to add the almond milk to it. I'm going to hold back a little bit. You always add it in afterwards. Just want to make sure that it gets the consistency that we want to. I don't want it to be too thick, too thin, so I can always add more. You can't take it out once it's in. All right. Yeah. Right.
This is a fun dessert, something to have on a table with and some fresh fruit to dip into it. It's an alternative to a mousse or ice cream, something. It's just like a nice, fun, light. I can just smell the cocoa powder from here. It's really strong. It has those flavonols, and it's been proven to help lower your blood pressure naturally. So trying to eat foods that are going to do these things in conjunction with any medications you may be on for your heart disease or if you're trying to for any other prevention measures. But this is a fun, different way to eat hummus. So simple. It took a few seconds. Very simple ingredients you probably have in your pantry right now. If you have not tried chocolate hummus, I suggest if you're going to try one of these recipes, And the one that's simplest, this one is it.
So I'm gonna add a few toasted almonds on top, give it some texture, a little nuttiness, and I have some dark chocolate here. I'm just gonna gracing that over the top as well.
The great thing about this one featuring the chickpea is another source of soluble fiber. But the chickpea or garbanzo or chichi is also a good plant-based protein alternative. It's high in fiber, high in protein. It's a little bit lower on the calorie level, so it's been shown in studies to help regulate weight control, regulate weight management, curb appetite, keeps you fuller longer. And it also is high in potassium, magnesium, which we know is good for heart health. So including chichi bean or garbanzo, all the names you have for it in your diet. Good choice.
You're thinking chickpea and chocolate's very good. Trust me, very good. All right, so there's all of our three things that we made. Sure.
So if you enjoy this is a quick segment, but if you're interested in doing any additional cooking classes, Northwell is going to be featuring a 6-week-long cook-along for the entire family for Northwell team members and all their family members. Community members are welcome as well. They reach out to Michelle Milgram in Employee Wellness at Northwell. It starts in August. Similar to this, you would get a Zoom link and join on. It has a variety of different topics from intro to the Mediterranean diet, legumes, fat and cholesterol, and we'll feature very similar easy recipes to make. If you're interested, you can see more information in the chat about how to sign up and register for that.
Hope you like that presentation, guys. Enjoy. Healthy cooking.
Thank you guys so much. That was amazing. Chef Brian, you make it look so easy, but I love that you picked such accessible recipes. You know, I think this is something that we could all do. Maybe not look so beautiful, but taste beautiful, I'm sure. So thank you so much. I do have some great questions from the audience. I think I might just jump in. And actually, Sharon, I'd love to pose the first question to you. How does the paleo diet differ from a Mediterranean style of eating?
Thanks, Rachel. That is a great question because they actually are very, very similar. The Mediterranean diet is a little bit more inclusive, a little bit more flexible. It is a style of eating. If anyone has ever heard of like the blue zones, Greece and the countries that surround the Mediterranean Sea are the ones that live the happiest and longest lives. And I think a lot of that has to do with just, you know, eating socially, probably resting a little bit more and eating the foods that we listed. The paleo diet, it's basically going back to like what our ancestors ate. So pre-industrial farming, you'll notice there's a little bit of wine on the Mediterranean style of eating, but in paleo, there's no alcohol at all. There's no beans and whole grains in the paleo diet, but you will find that on the Mediterranean diet. So it's a little bit more inclusive, but very similar because they're both avoiding processed foods.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I think this next question is so pertinent. You know, when we're low on time, right? When we're rushed, when we're trying to find something healthy to eat at lunchtime, but maybe we have 5 minutes to run out and eat, and you know, we're trying to make these good choices. What would you guys recommend? Are there healthy convenience foods, fast food options, places or brands that you guys would recommend to really kind of arm people with some options?
Sure. I'll jump in here a little bit. Just if you are going the route of like the fast food route, like McDonald's, Burger King, a lot of these places now have all the nutrition information available online, which are such a good resource because if you are trying to watch your sodium intake, watch your saturated fat intake, you can look up their menu and find an option that fits your dietary goals. And then you know, okay, well, the, I don't know, low sodium turkey sub at Subway maybe is good for you. Or you're going to go to McDonald's and you're going to grill chicken salad, right? You can look it up beforehand and then you can choose a couple of options that do fit for you. And then you'll have your go-tos, which is really nice. So that's my 5 cents about this. I don't know if you guys have anything else to add about it.
I think that's, go ahead.
Go
Sharon.
ahead. Go ahead. I was going to say, it's, you know, like everything else that we do in our lives, we should plan and stock up with these like emergency foods in our freezer, in our refrigerator, similar to what Leah and Brian just put together. You know, just have canned salmon, canned tuna, maybe some, low sodium cold cuts in the refrigerator, and then frozen vegetables in the freezer so those don't go bad. Because I know some people say when they stock up on the veggies, if they don't use it within 5 days, they go bad, so they're throwing it out. But frozen veggies are always a good, backup plan.
Absolutely. In your home, I think you can definitely have that healthy stuff to make sure that it keeps you on track. So when you're hungry and you just got home and there's nothing to eat, you can get something healthy. You can have some hummus and carrots. You can have, something really good. I'm actually in my office right now, and I always have some cereal with, whole grains in a packed thing. I also have some like dried fruit, nuts. Rachel knows this because, we're always hungry and we're like in a hurry. But when you're traveling, you might be stopping at a rest stop, and yeah, there are very few options. And sometimes you have to be, thinking about it. Like sometimes the convenience store may have dried nuts and fruits that are actually healthier than getting food from the McDonald's. And just, you really just have to think about what is the healthiest of the different options. But it's true. Most of these fast food places have realized that there are people out there who want to be heart healthy, and they have some option on their menu that you can choose from that's not, horribly terrible for your health.
Yeah, I think the focus should be on what is kind of least processed and is there a vegetable available. So a green salad is going to be very little processing and it's a vegetable, right? So try to find something that's a little bit fresher if you can. And I know it's hard, but more often than not, go for the veggie, go for the less processed option.
And just a little bit of planning goes a long way. I find that if you're not planning ahead and it's when you're most hungriest, you make the worst choices. You go for the quickest, the simplest, easiest, gratifying, the French fry, versus if you're not going so long between eating, you will make better choices. If they're there for you, you will grab that. We just started our salad bar up again here, and the employees are really loving it. So just tailor what you make and add proteins to it, things that are going to be filling you up, like whole grains, like a quinoa or like an avocado, where you're less likely to be hungry after you've ate one, and then grab something that's not so healthy for you.
Absolutely. I think those are all excellent points. I think planning is key. And actually, Sarah, I have a little bit of a kind of a follow-up question. You were speaking about the fish oils, the healthy fats. We do get a lot of questions, I think, about the quality of the food. Sometimes I think patients can have a mindset of it's all or nothing. I have to be eating organic all the time, or it always has to be wild salmon, or it's not going to be good for me. We did have a specific question about farmed versus wild salmon, but I'd love for you to expand a little bit, just sort of about, do people always need to be looking for, grass-fed steak if they're going to be splurging on that, or worrying about always having everything being organic, or is there a little bit of leeway there and you're
Yeah,
still.
I think the all or nothing mentality is a really big challenge for a lot of people, and it's really overwhelming, right? Let's say you want to go plant-based and you're like, well, I better go all in, I got to be a vegan. Well, that's really overwhelming for a lot of people. And if you do it in steps, and most of the time you're eating a balanced meal, and most of the time you're eating, unprocessed or minimally processed foods, you're still doing a good job, and you cannot beat yourself up because you have farm raised, like it. If that's the point where we're at, then you're in a pretty good spot, right? If you're worried about like where your salmon is coming from, chances are overall your diet's pretty good, right? So be flexible with yourself. Treat every meal as a new opportunity to make good choices. And if you chose something bad for breakfast, we don't really use that language anymore, something less healthy for breakfast, it doesn't mean that the rest of your day is in the garbage and you should just have donuts the rest of the day, right? Every meal is a new opportunity to make good choices. And that's how you have to approach it. The all or nothing mentality is too overwhelming, and it's too much. Hopefully, yeah, you'll make all good choices, but in all likelihood, you're not going to. And so you shouldn't feel like a failure every time you eat something that's not part of your diet plan. It's okay. You can make small goals happen, and they can, grow into really big changes.
I just want to mention out on organics. I've lectured on the, for cancer organizations here, and that question does come up a lot. What I find is that it's best if you're because organic can be quite expensive. If you're looking to where to spend your grocery dollars, every year they put out the Dirty Dozen, which is a list of fruits and vegetables that it's ideal that you choose those organic because it means that they can absorb the most pesticides and herbicides. So if you're going to spend dollars for organic, you want to spend it on the fruits and vegetables that you want to buy organic. Other ones, maybe like a banana, it's got a thick peel, you don't really worry about that one so much. But it's your berries and your spinach, there's certain ones that always come up on the Dirty Dozen. So you can very easily find that online. You just look up the Dirty Dozen fruit and vegetable list, and it changes every year slightly. But that's where I would start if you're somebody that's, should I buy organic? Which should I buy organic? That's a good guide for that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And we had a great question about how to make these recommendations more culturally adaptable. The question specifically mentioned that this patient is Indian and they use a lot of carbs in cooking, right? A lot of rice, a lot of flatbreads. Is there any way to still, be honoring the cultural side of things, but to make these meals a little bit more heart healthy?
I'm all about incorporating vegetables when possible. Just to a disclaimer, I am of Persian descent, and we have a lot of starch and rice in our diet as well. And when my mother is doing cooking, I'm still going to indulge in the stews that she's making. But I tend to have my side substitute instead of using rice. I might use riced cauliflower, and I'll put whatever curry stew on top of that. I think that the spices and the beans are all great, sources of fiber and protein. And just find alternatives to the flours. I mean, if you're open to trying instead of the wheat flour, maybe using almond flour, cassava flour, coconut flour, they have a little bit more fiber in them. Some of them will have a little bit more fat, but again, if this is just in moderation, these are just alternatives.
Yeah, I think that's a great question because, one is there's so many great cuisines out there. So you don't really want to eat boring food at any time. There's no reason to. You can make things spicy and flavorful and everything. So it could be Asian, it could be Mexican, it could be Indian, it could be Greek, it could be anything really. And you can, just with, as Sharon was mentioning, the right ratio of having enough vegetables, not having too many. And most cultures, have this tendency, even in a Greek culture, they'll have pasta sometimes with bread at the table, like there's no need for both of those things together, really. But who knew, So really just, I think any culture, yes, there is a tendency to maybe go to carb heavy and more like processed carbs or things that turn very quickly to sugar. And you have to be wary of that if you are at risk for diabetes or you have diabetes. But there's no reason in any of those cultures. Use a lot of the spices, use vegetables, use non-starchy food, lean proteins. You can use fish, you can use plant-based proteins, or just lean chicken or meat. So it's definitely something that you can do to any cultural background.
I think it's more a matter of portion control there. Because if certain foods are staple in a particular culture, being told, oh, don't eat that, you can't have that, there's going to be resistance to making other changes. People don't want to give up, their favorite items or their culture relevant staples. It's just a matter of maybe just eating a smaller portion, teaching portion controlling, teaching how much actually carbs is in that portion. So still including it, like as Sharon was saying, just going more on the vegetable side, less. Using more like the My Plate as a visual, which is a great tool that we use as a teaching visual in nutrition. And you can go on myplate.gov, find it, all information about it, but it teaches how you divide your plate in half, and half of it being veggies and just a quarter of it being those starches that even if we're going with your traditional starches, you can have them, it's just in smaller portions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have another great question about what are some great choices for late night snacks? I think that can be a very challenging thing for people to kind of navigate. So we'd love to hear your suggestions for that.
Usually I suggest leaving at least a 2-hour gap between the last thing you eat and going to bed, giving your body time to digest and absorb everything. Usually the later you eat, the more likely that food will be converted to sugar and stored as fat. And then it's a pretty quick way to gain weight eating late at night. If you're, I've heard this a lot though, someone who can't fall asleep without having eaten before. In that case, obviously fruits and veggies are always a good option. But if just the person was asking for non-fruit or veggie options, so maybe like a lean protein, something to kind of fill them up, but won't necessarily be stored as so much fat on their body, like I don't know, egg whites, like hard-boiled eggs. I know it sounds crazy, but why not? Or maybe something like air pop popcorn, something kind of light, crunchy, kind of, I think it's 3 cups as a serving size for air pop popcorn, not with the butter pumped on, plain popcorn. Maybe that can fulfill the craving. Something with a little bit of fiber or a little bit of protein to help fill them up so that they can go to sleep. But again, ideally, we'd move away from the late night snacking, giving 2 to 3 hour gap between, even if you're not doing like the intermittent fasting that Sharon had mentioned, still giving yourself that gap is a good idea. So try to lean towards that. If you can't, hot beverage, fruit or veggie, or something, relatively low in calorie and fat. That's what I would suggest.
Yeah, one of my tips is always to have, like you said, a warm beverage. So whether it's like a cinnamon tea or a chamomile tea, it tends to kind of fill up the stomach. Cucumbers, celery are always just, mostly water. So those are, things that you can fill you up. And I'm culprit to this sometimes too, when we're working late at night and we have longer hours that we're staying up. Even just like one spoonful of like Greek yogurt or like a teaspoon of, an almond butter or nut butter can sometimes do the trick. Just don't go overboard. But again, if you're using a small little baby spoon, it can help control your portions. And that has the protein and the healthy fats.
Right. And I think what Sarah and all of you have taught us, and our patients is also mindful eating and just thinking about why you're eating, So are you actually hungry, or is it that you're trying to get work done and you're stressed and so you're eating, or you're just kind of bored and you want to eat some food and, whatever. And again, not that you can't have a snack and you should, but just sort of taking a second to say, am I actually hungry right now? Do I really need this? And picking the healthiest of the options is a great way to go.
Absolutely. I love the drink idea. Not only is it comforting, but I think a lot of times we're actually thirsty. Our bodies are not super intelligent as far as differentiating that hunger cue from the thirst cue. So it might just be that you need some more hydration, and that might satisfy you and make it so that then you're not feeling that need to snack. So I know we're getting close to time. I want to honor one more question because I thought it was very interesting. I hadn't thought about it before. The person asked, other than discomfort, are there any health issues for someone to have dairy that's actually lactose intolerant?
That I'm aware of. If you're an infant, say, and an infant is lactose intolerant and eating dairy and they might have diarrhea, there might be some dehydration there. That's a risk if it's ongoing. Also, you might be lacking in calcium and vitamin D. If you think you're getting a lot from your dairy and it's kind of running right through you, you're not actually absorbing the calcium there or the vitamin D, so you might be at risk for a deficiency. But if it's something you're like, oh, screw it, I'm going to have some ice cream, even though, once in a while, probably no long-term issues. If it's a dairy allergy, that's different. But lactose intolerance, every once in a while, if you're willing to put up with the discomfort, probably not. If it's something you're doing daily and it's a lot of, diarrhea, worry about the dehydration though.
Great point. Yeah. Well, we could talk about this all night. I know it's such fascinating topics. You have all been so amazing. Thank you so much to our panelists, to our attendees. Please know that John will be emailing you all the recipes directly. We weren't able to post them with the link here, but we will definitely email you so you have all those amazing recipes. And please don't forget about our YouTube channel, Doc Heart Health, where you can go and watch any of the previous lectures that we've recorded. If you want your friends to watch this lecture down the line, please let them know that it will be posted. And also we have the link for the Dirty Dozen there, which was a great point as far as when you really want to focus on maybe getting some organic options versus where it's not such an issue. And we are going to have another talk next month. We don't have that solidified yet, but I promise we will make sure to get that out to you once we have have the details solidified. We always like to pick something every month that's going to benefit our community, whether it's nutrition, exercise, stress reduction, blood pressure. So we'll make sure to keep getting amazing experts to talk to you about all that. And Dr. Janos, did you have any other closing remarks you wanted to share? Oh, I think you're muted.
Wow, that was really challenging to unmute. But anyway, but no, I just wanted to thank everyone who's here. These are people from across our healthcare system, all who, we find out day in and day out of things that are going on. I didn't know about the program that you're going to have, that 6-week program that's, going over recipes and things. So there's things going on. There's a lot of help out there. The key is really just to pair up with the right people, find a dietitian, find a partner. There's a lot of information on our website as well, so you can go and view our old videos and continue to join us for our lecture series. So thanks to everyone, and thank you to Rachel also for always moderating, and for John, who actually has been the behind the scenes person who's gotten these organized for us, and to the Katz Institute also for helping us out and partnering. So thanks, everybody. Have a good night.